I think it's safe to say that Donald Trump has never really liked adversarial interviews. He's never been able to withstand a whole lot of pushback like other politicians have been able to do. And now that we're getting closer to the 2024 election, this echo chamber that he exists within seems to be getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But if you end up getting anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that subscribe button. I'm trying to make it to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I would very much appreciate your support. Now, I think one of the main issues plaguing our society these days is that we have these fragmented information systems that people exist within. And I'm particularly concerned because the MAGA cultists seem to be filtering themselves down into smaller and smaller bubbles. And anytime that they're confronted with information that exists outside of their bubble, they just go on the attack. They'll say it's not true. They'll attack who is saying it, or they'll try to discredit the information. And this became perfectly clear when Donald Trump pulled out of the 60-minute interview, because they were going to give him an interview that may have asked tougher questions than he was used to. So let's go ahead and listen to Scott Pelley explain why Donald Trump pulled out of this interview.
Then, a week ago, Trump backed out. The campaign offered shifting explanations. First, it complained that we would fact-check the interview. We fact-check every story. Later, Trump said he needed an apology for his interview in 2020. Trump claims correspondent Leslie Stahl said in that interview that Hunter Biden's controversial laptop came from Russia. She never said that. Trump has said his opponent doesn't do interviews because she can't handle them. He had previously declined another debate with Harris, so tonight may have been the largest audience for the candidates between now and Election Day.
I think it is quite rich that anytime the MAGA universe talks about Kamala Harris, they're talking about, oh, how she's not giving interviews, or she's only going in front of audiences that are going to be kind to her, when that is not true. 60 Minutes asked Kamala Harris tough questions, and they continued to push her on those questions until they got a answer that was reasonable. I don't know the best terminology here, but Donald Trump wouldn't even subject himself to the interview. The last time he was on 60 Minutes, he got mad because Leslie Stahl said, "Are you ready for some tough questions?" in a joking manner. And he ended up storming out of that interview like a petulant child because he doesn't want pushback. He only wants to exist in a world where everybody around him says he has good ideas, doesn't push back on his bad ideas. They want them, or he wants them, to kiss the ring. This is unbecoming of somebody who wants to be the next president of the United States. The president is elected to serve the people. But Donald Trump only knows how to serve himself. And this isn't a problem that is just isolated to Donald Trump. He is passing these toxic elements on to the MAGA cult. And we're also seeing that with even his vice presidential candidate. Do you guys remember during the debate where he got all bent out of shape because he perceived them as fact-checking him? Let's go ahead and take a look at that.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on.
So in case you didn't hear that, he said, you guys said you weren't going to fact check me. In what world is it okay for a vice presidential candidate or a presidential candidate to be so opposed to facts on the ground? This is why I think this is becoming such a huge issue. These two realities that exist between people in the MAGA universe and reality are diverging from one another. And it is a huge problem if we don't have a factual basis for our realities. How am I supposed to work or compromise with somebody that can't even agree on the facts on the ground? If you think that FEMA is somehow going door to door and seizing property when there's been absolutely no evidence provided to make that claim even close to true, how am I supposed to reason with that as a reasonable individual? I can't. That's why it is so dangerous for J.D. Vance and Donald Trump to go around spreading these conspiracy theories that the MAGA cult believes. And anytime that they are confronted with information outside of that bubble, instead of letting that bubble pop a little bit, like I said, they go on the attack. They do not want to confront facts that might be adversarial to their worldview. And that is becoming a problem for each and every one of us. Whether you're on the right or you're on the left. If you're on the right and you believe in some of these crazy conspiracies, that also makes it harder for you to work with somebody like me, who considers himself grounded in a factual basis. We can't live in this type of world where the two realities are so divergent from one another that there's no common ground to be had. How am I supposed to reason with somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene when she says that Democrats are using weather machines to point hurricanes at red areas on the map? How am I supposed to reason with that? I can't, because it is unreasonable, and it has no fidelity to the truth. It has no basis in the facts on the ground, no basis in truth. So until we are able to recognize these bubbles exist and are willing to step outside of them, this is going to be an ongoing issue. And it is particularly scary that a presidential candidate is one of the main drivers behind this alternate reality. Because Donald Trump, instead of confronting factual analysis around him, he just spreads lies, he spreads conspiracies, and he surrounds himself with people that bow at his feet instead of give him a dose of reality. And I think Katie Phang actually said it best when she was responding to the 60 Minutes interview dropout by the Trump campaign. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what she said.
Trump's campaign is that 60 Minutes, a news program, would have the audacity to fact-check the interview. Here's the reality. Trump couldn't do the interview because at this point, he requires the safety of his MAGA security blanket. Yes, Trump may have done a number of interviews, but they are almost always with conservative outlets and Trump supporters. Most recently with Fox's Laura Ingraham last night and right-wing podcaster Ben Shapiro today. All Trump is doing is speaking to his base and his diehard supporters as he faces softball questions with little to no pushback or no follow-up at all, allowing him to just regurgitate alternative facts and misinformation with each breath. The two campaign strategies couldn't be more different. One is trying to reach out to diverse audiences while continuing to roll out substantial new policies. The other is remaining in his echo chamber, repeating the same debunked lies in an effort to inflame voters with his deceit.
We all know this to be true. When was the last time that Trump went out and did an interview that was a little adversarial? I think the only one I can think of is the NABJ. And instead of confronting the questions that were asked, Donald Trump just went on the attack because he thinks that when he is asked tough questions by a journalist, nonetheless, that it's somehow a personal attack against him because he is a pathetic man-baby. He can't separate these two things because his world is all about him, and he thinks that everybody else revolves around him as well. So when somebody steps out of line and asks a tough question, they are proving to him that they are somehow sufficient, or they are proving to him that they are not loyal enough to him. How does that make any sense? We know that Donald Trump would love it if he were able to walk into any room and people would bow at his feet and kiss the ring. This is a wet dream of Trump's that he's even spoke about. He talks about how he likes Kim Jong-un and how they stand up to attention, or Xi Jinping. But we live in America, sir. This is a democracy. The people elect leaders, not kings. And when Donald Trump surrounds himself with nothing but yes men, and he drills down smaller into a smaller and smaller echo chamber, that is having huge consequences on the rest of us. Because Donald Trump can't exist inside of actual reality anymore. He is a broken old man that should not come near the White House ever again. But I'll leave it there. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share it with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. Like I said before, I'm trying to make it to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I would very much appreciate your support. If you want to learn how these echo chambers manifest into cognitive dissonance, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.